It is really a very great pleasure for me to be here today. This is a wonderful conference, organized so well by General Ali Awad, whom I met in Italy a little time ago. And I would like to say that looking at the list of participants, I'm very impressed with the very high level of the personalities present here today. I would also like to say that I found the level of the interventions this morning indeed very high and very scientific in character. And this is why I think that I share the views of all of you, that we should keep the discussions really to the same level. We are in a university, which helps us considerably, and I believe that each one of us can give a very substantial contribution to our work, and I'm sure that we will enjoy enormously and treasure good memories of our meetings here. I must say that I've met a number of people who are participating, and I indeed find that this fact of having been able to meet many of you already is also a very important testimonial of the fact that we can discuss things together in a very friendly and, I would say, a very friendly and a very open way. My assignment has been to moderate a meeting which sees some very important people around this table. I'm very pleased to see that the Minister of Justice of an important country like Lebanon, His Excellency Achraf Rifi, is with us, and I would like to thank him for being here. I am also very pleased that my friend Ali Awad has taken and replaced the president of Nayef Arabs University, who spoke this morning and simply postponed his talk that we would have heard otherwise in the first session. And I'm very, very pleased to see an old friend, Professor Giorgio Pacifici, whom I met in Italy many, many years ago when I had been given on loan by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Ministry of Science and Technology in Italy at that time. And indeed, it's a great pleasure to see such an old friend again. Well, I come from another university, not the Geneva one, a university which is in Venice, and I shall tell you a little more about this university. A few days ago, we had a seminar, and because in these universities we have many, many different atenei, other universities which are associated and share the same campus, there were some Americans. And one of the American professors was from Yale. He started off by saying that he would have spoken and framed this speech around the letters of his university, Y-A-L-E. And so we were very hopeful, it would have been short. Y stands for youth, he said. And of course, our job is to indicate to young people what is waiting for them in real life. And he spoke about 15 minutes about the importance of educating the youth. A, he continued, stands for ambition, a great American virtue. And he gave another 20 minutes to the importance of being ambitious in life. And then he went on. By that time, we were sitting comfortably in our chairs. He said, L stands for learning, which is our mission, to show students how they can pick up competence in different areas. And another 15 minutes were devoted to the importance of learning. And finally, when he came to the letter E, he said, after all, education is really what we are all after. And we must educate the young. And with other 10 minutes, he ended up this nice speech. When he finished, he came and sat by me, and he asked, how did I do? Well, I said, perfectly well, it was very nice. We're only very pleased that you don't come from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Well, I don't come from the Massachusetts, and I hope that because VIU is relatively short, that I will be able to end the presentation of this round table in a few minutes. But not without saying first that we find ourselves in a very different time period. You see, the mission of education has always been to prepare the young people for life. But the real meaning of preparing someone for life today is very difficult, because the pace of change has been such that we find ourselves in a new world, and we don't understand exactly how one can prepare something or somebody for a world which changes so rapidly. We have to renegotiate, in a way, the meaning of time. And I must say that myself, reading some time ago a book by a Japanese theologian, I was very impressed by its title, 3 miles an hour God, was the title, which means roughly God's pace, the pace of God is 3 miles an hour, which is exactly the speed at which we walk. Well, Christ used to go 3 miles an hour, and I imagine the prophet also went 3 miles an hour. Why is it so important to go at 3 miles an hour? Because when you move at that speed, you have a full perception of what happens around you. You can feel the drops of rain. You can feel the rays of the sun if it's warm. You can hear the children quarreling or shouting. But if you increase the speed, the more you increase the speed, and the more your perceptions become different, more of a very general nature. And if you go by airplane, your contact with the earth is even totally lost. Well, if what has been the character of our time? Well, there is somebody that perhaps you have heard about, Beltram, who says that we live in a nowist society, in a hurried time society. And if we live in a hurried society, you are always looking for the new moment. And the new moment promises something that the preceding moment has not given you. So that, in fact, you're always looking for something new, a new beginning. Sometimes it's a false start. And if it's a false start, you will even want the new moment to come earlier. We live in a sort of consumer society where there is a tremendous amount of things that you don't want to recollect, that you don't want to keep. You want to discard and substitute. My phone, for instance. The previous one worked perfectly well. But I replaced it simply because they promised there would be a new one which would do the same things, exactly the same things that the older phone would do, only quicker and better. So in this period of hurried time, we need to stop. Unless we don't want to see the interval between one noise and another noise, which makes music possible. You need moments of silence. And dialogue needs moments of silence. Otherwise, you don't hear what the other person is saying, or you do not understand fully what he is saying. And this is one first problem that we try to teach to our students in Venice. It's the concept of ma in Japan, which means the segment between two moments. A moment of silence and another moment of silence, and in between there may be some noise. The second thing we try to teach our students is that we live under a deluge of information. We are flooded by information. And the information is such that you have a sort of background noise, which is always there. Background noise. And this background noise makes it very difficult to receive the message, the important message, the message you're looking for. This conference, for instance, is bound to send important messages. That's what we want to do. But we somehow have to separate the line between what is the background noise and the real message, what is relevant from what is irrelevant. And it has become very difficult. Somebody said that one edition of the Sunday New York Times contains more information than what a very cultivated man of the 18th century could probably use during his whole lifetime. Now, this sort of flooding information is somehow exceeding our capacity. And it is important that our students should understand that the first thing they must learn, the first skill they must acquire, is how to get rid of that background noise and how to use filters to prevent the background noise from becoming messages. And therefore, what sort of education are we trying to give? And this is the third point I wanted to make. In the past, it was very easy to say, you want to become a doctor? These are the subjects you must learn. These are the exams you must take. And then you will get the diploma at the end. It was a sort of ballistic missile. The target was fixed. You knew only how much time it would take. You needed to know how much fuel you needed to reach the objective. But once you have triggered the missile, you would know exactly where it would land had you done your calculations properly. Nowadays, the target is a moving target. And therefore, it is totally irrelevant to study the subjects which were necessary to reach a steady, firm target. You need something similar to a smart missile. And we tell our teachers and our students at the same time that the main thrust of the whole exercise is to be able to learn and learn fast if you want to reach the movable target. And often you must also discard what is no longer necessary, because our memory, unlike the server's memory in a telephone, cannot be overstretched. And so you need to know and you need to acquire the skills which will allow you to reach a movable target by adjusting your trajectory according to where it is, which means forget what is no longer necessary, but follow rapidly and very quickly and acquire the information which is needed to reach the movable target. So this is some of the considerations I wanted to make, finding myself in a university, as we all are, because I think that we are, in fact, looking for that. We live in a new type of society of hurried time, but we must learn how to take our time and to, from time to time, reduce the speed and even stop. We need to know that the type of education may be different from what was needed in the past, because we're looking at different targets and they all move. And what is important is to move. And third, not to be absorbed by the background noise, but to understand better what is the relevant message. Now, to give you an idea of how fast things are moving, there are rock-solid corporations, which we would have taken for granted could only be perfect. And then you find out all of a sudden that we have been misguided. We all have heard about the Volkswagen problem. Who would have ever thought that such a huge, important, and excellent corporation would have somehow, all of a sudden, let us know that things were not the way they were. What is good for us often can turn out to be poison later. And so, in a time like this, you will appreciate that it is important to keep oneself and to acquire skills which are not necessarily the same as we used to have. And I think that all of us in this room, probably in our experience, have lived through that. And since what is important is to try and explain this new world to our students and to our young people, after all, they will probably face a world of downgrading expectations. We were accustomed to believing that the next generation would have had more choices, more chances to succeed. All parents believed that their daughters or sons would have been offered greater possibilities, and their point of arrival would have been the point of departure for them. We were accustomed to believing that the world would have been more secure. There would have been more chances for peace, that we would have somehow reached the golden age. And now we are living in a world where instead the expectations are only going downward. And they're going down at such a speed that the descent is becoming very uncomfortable. Looking at the situation not only in Europe, but in the southern part of the Mediterranean, to many of our countries, we see that the number of jobless is increasing. And when it's not jobless, it's sometimes a deceitful way of giving a job to someone, for instance, through this stage period, sometimes non-paid, or temporary jobs and so forth. Well, this was not the case before. And this means that the world has changed to a very large extent. And we must prepare for that. And I'm sure that the interventions which will follow will give us a way to look at this. But before I move on, let me show you a few pictures. Well, this is Venice. It's the very serene Venetian lagoon. And this is the island of San Servolo, where Venice International University is. That's our campus. Looking from the air, Venice looks more or less like a large fish. And we are in the island between brackets, which is a perfect place to be, because when you are there, you don't know how to come back. And therefore, students and teachers can only concentrate on their job. The following one. This is an aerial view, which is a superb place. I do hope that you'll be able to come and visit us. We'll be delighted to see you there. These are the universities which belong to our network. As you may see, they range from America, US and Canada, to Europe, to Far East, where there are 2 Chinese universities and 1 from Japan. And it's surprising to see how they all work together on global issues. The global issues being sustainability. There was a lot was said this morning about sustainable growth, cultural heritage. You only can indulge in a dialogue if you respect the person you have in front of you. And you respect more easily the person in front of you if you know the importance of his heritage, not only yours. You must also know a little bit about his. And then all things which may be of interest to students today, the importance of design, the importance of tourism, and these are the instruments, courses, advanced training, lectures, seminar, summer schools and lab. We have also a multimedia lab. Much was said this morning about media, and we believe indeed that media are an important area of investigation. Well, humanities, of course, globalization, that was again mentioned this morning. I think we can move on. That's about it. You can see some of the students there. Quite nice groups and interesting people. We have also, there was a very interesting intervention this morning by the representative of UNESCO. We have an agreement with UNESCO. We have also an agreement with the Council of Europe. And we're very proud of that because Council of Europe has been the defender of human rights and the governance of law from the very beginning. We also belong to the United Nations Global Compact, that is the private sector, which works for the attainment of the objectives of the United Nations. And the Coimbra Group is a group of universities linked together in Europe. Yes, thank you. And now a video which lasts only 1 minute.
We live in fast-changing times, surrounded by a sea of complexity, languages, cultures, ideas, people. So diverse and so distant. It's time to fill the gap. It's time to come together. Welcome to San Servolo Island. Welcome to the Venice International University, where universities from all over the world created a remarkable space for creativity and innovation, open to students, academics, policymakers, and entrepreneurs. A bridge between diverse cultural backgrounds and contemporary global issues such as sustainable development, climate change, cultural heritage, social challenges, urban growth, and innovation entrepreneurship. With such a glorious past and a fragile present, Venice is the perfect setting for looking towards the future. At VIU, we design new routes of knowledge, connecting a world of opportunities. Venice International University, a global experience.
Thank you very much, young lady. Thank you. I will then ask the Minister of Justice, Achraf Rifi, to take the floor. Please, Minister.
Thank you. شكرا جزيلا. فخامة الرئيس العماد مشير سليمان، صاحب المعالي الوزير رمزي جريج، صاحب السعادة النائب الدكتور علي فياض، أصحاب المعالي والسمو والسعادة، حضرة نقيب محامية طرابلس والشمال النقيب فهد المقدم، سيداتي سادتي أيها الحضور الكريم. يسعدني أن أتقدم بمداخلتي.
It is a pleasure for me to address you with the presence of His Excellency the Minister, while we are in the presence of these personalities, and I will speak about humanitarian dialogue, a security and judicial vision. When we approach any issue from a security perspective, we have to verify the details of such a case and evaluate the effects it may have on the security of our country, and this is a priority. When we take this issue from a judicial, legal perspective, we have to look for evidence and conviction in order to reach a ruling and to apply a certain self-censorship in order to be logical and just. When we approach any issue as people who believe in dialogue and avoid any discussions or deteriorations of discussions, we may have a sort of confrontation that might be soft when compared to a much more harsh, a much harsher conflict, which could be even armed, where the